Have you ever wanted to disappear? To leave everything behind, the noise, the people, the mistakes, and start over somewhere no one can find you? That's what I thought I wanted. Silence, solitude. But silence can be dangerous, because when the world goes quiet enough, you start to hear the things that were always there, waiting. This is my story, about what I found, or what found me deep in the Appalachian Mountains. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that I made it out, or at least I think I did. This is Did It Follow Me, told only once here, on NightLore. I used to think hitting rock bottom was just a phrase. Turns out, it's an actual place you can live in for a while. When my wife left, she took more than half my stuff. She took the part of me that gave a damn. A month later, I lost my job. Another month, and I was living off instant noodles and stale beer, spending nights staring at my phone screen, just to remind myself the world still existed. Everyone told me to focus on myself, to find the silver lining. I didn't want a silver lining. I wanted silence. That's when I remembered my father's old cabin. He'd built it decades ago in the Appalachian Mountains before he disappeared from my life entirely. No one had been there since. A forgotten shack buried deep in the woods. No power, no reception, exactly what I needed. I told myself I'd stay for a month. Maybe I'd come back with a new perspective. Or maybe I just wouldn't come back at all. The man who drove me up there didn't say much. He was a local, maybe in his 60s, face like old bark and eyes that had seen too much. He dropped me off near an overgrown trail and said, "You walk the rest. Just follow the creek till you can't anymore." I asked how far. He just stared at the tree line and said, "You'll know when you're there." Before he left, he pulled something from his jacket, a small rusted horseshoe, and pressed it into my hand. "For luck," he said. Then his voice dropped to a near whisper. "And for silence. Don't break it." He didn't wait for a thank you. The sound of his truck faded until there was nothing left, just the wind through the trees and the sound of my own heartbeat. The forest swallowed me whole. I expected nature to be loud birds, insects, the steady hum of life. Instead, it was dead silent. It wasn't peaceful silence either. It was heavy, the kind that pressed on your skin. Every step felt wrong, like walking through a place that didn't want you there. When I finally found the cabin, I almost laughed. It leaned slightly to one side, half swallowed by moss and roots. The porch sagged, and the door groaned like it remembered pain. Inside, everything smelled like old wood and forgotten time, but it was intact. I unpacked, lit the small wood stove, and sat on the creaky chair near the window. For the first time in years, there were no texts, no calls, no voices, just me in the quiet. That night, I dreamed of footsteps crunching outside the cabin. When I woke up, the woods were still. By the 5th day, the silence stopped feeling peaceful. It started feeling wrong. The forest around the cabin seemed to change, the trees closer together, the shadows darker even at noon. One morning, I noticed deep grooves on the bark of the nearest pine tree. Not bear claws, not even close. The marks were too wide, too deep. Something tall had done that, something with fingers. I told myself it was nothing. I even laughed about it while making coffee. But later, when I stepped outside, I realized the forest had gone silent again. No wind, no birds, not even the creek. I went back inside and locked the door. That night, I left the lantern burning until sunrise. On the 12th night, I decided to cook something real, a pot of stew on the fire pit outside. It felt almost human comforting. The smell carried through the trees, and for a moment, I forgot how far away from everything I was. When I woke the next morning, the yard looked like a battlefield. The ground was torn apart, trees bent at strange angles. My stew pot, a solid cast iron, one was shattered into pieces flung across the yard. The food was smeared into the dirt untouched. Whatever did this didn't eat. It destroyed. I stood on the porch staring at the mess and said aloud just to hear a voice. "What the hell are you?" The forest didn't answer. The next morning, I found tracks. Huge ones. Deep, deliberate impressions pressed into the damp soil, leading from the woods straight to my porch and stopping there. I crouched down and traced one with my fingers. It wasn't animal. It had 5 toes. Something walked upright. That night, I killed the lantern, early covered myself in scent blocker, and waited in the dark. I don't know how long I sat there before I heard its slow, heavy footsteps circling the cabin. They weren't cautious. They were confident. Like whatever it was, already knew I couldn't leave. The boards of the porch creaked, then silence. It stood there for a long time, breathing, deep, rattling breaths that felt like they were pulling the air out of my lungs. And then, it walked away. The next night, I didn't sleep at all. I sat with the knife I'd found in a drawer, old, rusted, but sharp enough. Sometime after midnight, the cabin shook. The door splintered inward with a crash, and I dove into the wardrobe hard, hammering in my throat. I could hear it moving heavy, dragging steps, wood snapping under its weight. It sniffed the air, a deep, wet inhale that made my skin crawl. Through the narrow slats of the wardrobe, I saw it. It had to duck to fit through the door. Its body was twisted human, but wrong limbs, 2 long joints, bending the wrong way. The skin across its chest was pale and tight scarred, like it had been burned. Its face, God, that face. Mouth stretched too wide, teeth uneven and jagged. No eyes, just sunken bits of black flesh. And yet somehow it knew where I was. It moved closer, fingers flexing claws, scraping wood. Then suddenly it froze, turned its head sharply toward the window, and left. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. I stayed in that wardrobe until morning light hit the floorboards. I didn't back. I didn't think. I just ran. I grabbed the knife, a bottle of water, and the horseshoe the old man gave me. The forest felt different now, wrong in a way I couldn't explain. Every direction looked the same. Trees pressed close paths, vanished where I swore they'd been before. For hours I walked, then stumbled, then crawled. No birds, no sun through the canopy, just that suffocating silence again. Every so often I heard branches cracking behind me, slow, steady, like something pacing me. It didn't rush. It didn't need to. It was letting me wear myself out. At one point, I swore I heard it breathe my name. Just as the sun began to sink, I saw it a break in the trees. Buildings. A small village, wooden houses faded with time, a church steeple rising against the twilight. No signs of life, but I didn't care. Civilization meant safety. I stumbled into the nearest building, an old general store. Inside were a few people. Ordinary, quiet. They all turned to look at me as I burst in gasping for breath. I tried to speak, but my voice broke. "There's something out there," I managed to say. "It's following me." They didn't react. No questions, no confusion, just silence. Finally, the woman behind the counter stepped forward. Her voice was calm, steady, like she'd asked this before. "Did it follow you?" she said. And that's when I heard the porch creak behind me. I still wake up at night sometimes. The air feels heavy, and the silence presses in just like it did up there. I moved halfway across the country. New city, new name, new life. But every now and then, I hear it, that same slow creak of wood, outside my window. I haven't seen it since that night in the village, but I know it's not gone. Maybe it never left the mountains, or maybe it followed me. If you ever find yourself deep in the Appalachians and the woods go quiet, don't listen for what's there. Listen for what isn't. Because once it finds you, silence will never sound the same again. You've been listening to NightLore, where the dark remembers your name. Good night, if you can sleep.